Welcome to Workforce Accessibility for All Ages, a webinar series brought to you by the Age-Friendly Greater Pittsburgh Workforce Group. This webinar series seeks to cover successes, challenges, and resources job seekers might experience or need in re-entering or re-engaging the workforce. This series is an effort to create an equitable as well as equal workforce in Allegheny County as well as the city of Pittsburgh.
Navigating the workforce has changed over the last 20 years. However, as we've all endured the last year of COVID, it's forced change all across the landscape, including how do we look for and apply to jobs. Many employers now only have online applications. Many other employers are offering work from home positions that hadn't been available before. And this has all created challenges for potential employees. And so learning to navigate this new reality is even more important as the digital divide has exposed so many weaknesses that already existed. Today's panel will address some of the challenges from the perspective of employers who seek to meet potential employees where they are as they work together to bridge the digital gap.
My name is Monique Yost. I am one of the Age-Friendly Greater Pittsburgh Workforce Group co-chairs, and I am also one of the program coordinators for Adult Workforce Services with Partner for Work.
And I'm Charles Howell. I am also one of the co-chairs for the Age-Friendly Greater Pittsburgh's Workforce Development team, and I am the Director of Workforce Development for Mon Valley Initiative.
I also would like to take a few moments to give my two panelists some time to introduce themselves. So ladies.
Hello everyone, I'm Amanda Bothwell. I am the Human Resources Director for UPMC's Insurance Services Division, and I oversee recruitment and talent acquisition for the organization.
Hi, good afternoon. I'm Tanya Ulrich, and I am the Chief Human Resources Officer for Presbyterian Senior Care Network. We have care communities for seniors up and down the west coast of Pennsylvania.
Fantastic. Thanks, ladies. So each one of these episodes, just for context, will intentionally engage local organizations like UPMC, as well as Presbyterian Senior Care, surrounding an equitable workforce in Allegheny County, as well as the city of Pittsburgh. So to kind of reiterate, today's episode will be covering employment searching in the virtual world. I'm looking forward to some really great conversation with you guys, and we can take right off. So we know that the pandemic has really altered what we know and how we view job searching, and specifically the avenues that job seekers would utilize to search for employment. From both of your perspectives, how has COVID affected job seekers' ability to access employment and furthermore to search for employment, if that makes sense?
I can start us off from both aspects here. So the pandemic has definitely affected in both ways. I will say right now, it is a job seeker's world. There are a lot of positions out there for individuals to apply to, but the barriers we have seen is that a lot of areas are in a virtual world right now, and a lot of positions have transitioned to a remote workforce. So that can cause some barriers in, is this what an individual wants to do? Are there barriers to, fears of being able to go into the workplace where there aren't and you're still going on site? So there's a lot to think about as an applicant seeking for a new job. I would say the one thing with the application process, most of them are done online now. You can do it mobile, you can do it on a desktop, but for some job seekers, they have had opportunities to go places to access computers and hand in a resume or, apply somewhere else. And a lot of those places don't have the ability to do that right now. So it's, how do I get my resume online? So that is one barrier we have seen. Another one is a different type of interviewing right now. A lot of our interviews are still virtual, and there's a lot of tools and technologies that are out there instead of just finding the address, going to the employer and sitting down and having a face-to-face human contact conversation. A lot of it is done over the a computer, a phone, with different types of virtual tools to use. And that can be very challenging to new job seekers who have never used them before or have access to using that type of technology. So those are a couple of areas we have seen that have been challenging to new job seekers.
Yeah, and I would just echo Amanda's comments, excuse me. I think fortunately, a lot of employers were kind of equipped to deal with the transition to virtual. Some were not, though. And it really just accelerated the pace of moving into the virtual world. We were able, I think, at some of the larger employers anyway, able to quickly toggle into a different mode when we needed to. I think for maybe some smaller businesses that didn't have some of the processes in place, possibly may still, you would need to directly contact, those employers to see how they might be able to interview you or how to learn about their positions. But by and large, the pandemic accelerated the pace of change with regard to job seeking and the types of work out there.
Thanks. So to kind of piggyback off of some of what you guys have said, something I was thinking about that I would love to get your perspective on is how important / vital is it for clients to have access to technology in order to complete job search?
I'll start with that. I mean, I think it's not if they don't have it, it's not a deal breaker. Right. However, they would need to reach out in a different way to let us know that they might need some assistance and how they would apply for a position with us and to learn about those opportunities. The vast majority of the applicants that we receive are applying online. People should not feel intimidated, though, if they don't have the technology or the skills to navigate the technology. They shouldn't be intimidated or afraid to reach out directly.
I agree with Tanya. It's the same thing on our end too, is everybody had to shift, not only the applicants, but also the employers of how to use the technology. So we always say too, we're flexible. You have to be flexible on both ends. If the technology isn't there, we will work around it and we will be accommodating. I'm going to turn my light back on.
Beautiful. Okay.
Sorry about that. But also, sorry, it's also if you don't have it, and a lot of people are still used to having phone interviews, and that is also a way to accommodate if you don't have the technology to be able to do a video or virtual interview. A lot of technologies out there still come with a phone number, a passcode to use, and I think that is one available source that can continue to happen when it comes to interviews and they're not able to go on site.
Makes total sense. So I know both you ladies mentioned that flexibility and pivoting is kind of the aim of the game right now, kind of for everyone. Are you noticing there are specific resources that job seekers are using or can use to get updated information about these new ways or updated ways to apply for employment?
I would just say, we've really tried to do a lot for the person who has access and an interest in technology, to try to make sure that we're out there everywhere we can be. And again, many employers are really putting out their best foot forward on digital and social media. And, lots of folks have social media accounts, and you're seeing a lot of jobs posted on social media these days with kind of apply now, so they don't have to necessarily go out to corporate websites or things of that nature to apply.
Yep, we use a lot of our social media platforms as well to communicate outwards. And we still try to do the old-fashioned way of sending out flyers to individuals, to our community partners, just to get the information out there on paper with some tips and tricks, some places to go to, so they physically have something and instructions in hand on where to go when looking and navigating through some of the virtual platforms.
Mm-hmm.
I love that you guys talked about the social media platform because I mean, we've spent the past 18 to 24 months inside looking at our phones, right? So that totally makes sense. And it become even more so of a vein of information for, everyone, not just job seekers. What are some recommended job search sites and engines that clients can use in order to kind of get not only information, but also to submit applications in a semi-easy or easily to understand way?
So I'm a big user believer in Indeed. I think that's a big place people go to. Sometimes they Google Indeed and then get to the Indeed website. There's a lot out there. There's ZipRecruiter, there's Glassdoor, there's multiple websites to go to. I'm just using this one as an example because you can pretty much search whatever you want on there. And a lot of the top searches individuals are doing are either remote, work from home and seeing what titles are out there, even leaving it blank just to see what's in the area with a zip code. There are so many organizations that you can see out there with a skill set, what maybe meets your needs from being on site or being in a virtual workforce. There are also a lot of different job board platforms out there that you could sign up to get tips and tricks on working in a virtual environment, and then you're sent daily extras on, how to be a virtual job seeker or tips on how to use virtual technologies or how to overcome, different situations of being a virtual job seeker. So there is a lot out there on the internet and the web and different types of jobs to look at on different platforms that there's so much, that job seekers can find if they just Google and look through different scenarios that they need.
Yeah, and I would echo everything Amanda has said. And there, there's certainly the world of work has changed quite a lot. That said, there's still a lot of jobs that are kind of in person, if you will, going to work in a different, whether it be healthcare or hospitality or retail or certain offices and so forth. And I think just being open to what the possibilities are. In addition to Indeed, and we rely heavily on Indeed as well. I mean, just really connecting with those community resources to learn about opportunities. Certainly, there are large organizations with lots of jobs are most likely going to be on Indeed, but there may be some smaller or community-based organizations that may or may not be out there that, some of the community providers, resources for job seekers, the career links, et cetera, may have some information on and make some good referrals for. So, I think certainly go out on Indeed, look and see what's out there and some of those other job boards and really get your resume together. And so that you're prepared and can even post it, on Indeed, right? To see what it might generate. And that would just be, one step in preparing you for that interview and, certainly to build on the search from there.
Naturally, Tanya, your comment leads us beautifully into my next question. Virtual interviews. I realize I myself completed a virtual interview and it was a wild experience, right? I'm sitting in my kitchen, I'm dressed for an interview, like the whole energy and environment is there, but I'm still sitting at home, which is an entirely different, kind of mental thought process to kind of shut off the world around you so that you can kind of engage in that workforce activity. What should job seekers know about the virtual interview experience?
Yeah, I would just say, just not to be intimidated by it, right? Pretty sure most of us don't like looking at ourselves on the screen, but don't worry about that. And, as Amanda mentioned, we can do it via phone as well. So you may be face-to-face or it may be via phone, but whatever technology you use, you want to make sure it works, right? You want to test the technology, make sure you can see, hear what you need to see and hear. You certainly want to be in a position, you mentioned you were in your kitchen, but dressed for an interview and ready to go. You want to be in a place where you can minimize distractions and really focus on the process, because it's important. It's an interview, right? You want to be prepared. When the time for the interview is upon you, you want to be prepared, have everything you need, be mentally prepared for the interaction. And, and part of preparation may be practice. You don't want to memorize your speech because you can never predict how the conversation will go, but certainly practicing what you want to share. Be mindful of your body language. It's really no different than an in-person interview in that way. You want to be mindful of your body language. You had mentioned you were dressed in your, your suit or whatever. You want to dress the part because generally you'll feel more confident and equipped in an interview if you feel like you're there, right? So dress the part. It's really important to make a connection with the person you're speaking with, and that eye contact, body language, etc. And then, based on the interaction, and certainly things probably went great, you'll want to also immediately follow up with the person or individuals you were interviewing with within about 24 hours or so of the interview, just to follow up. Let them know you're still interested, you valued the opportunity, etc. But I think in a nutshell, you want to be prepared, right? Just like an in-person interview, you need to be prepared in order to be able to put your best foot forward.
You really covered it, Tanya. That was a lot of the tips I was going to give as well. And it's just try not to be nervous. As an employer, they can be just as nervous too. We are flexible on both ends. Not only may you run into a situation where technology doesn't work, us as employers, that could happen to us too. So we're flexible, accommodating. Just know that something may go wrong that day, and that is okay. But yes, being prepared is always a good thing. You could go to, as a job seeker, and interview 3 different types of platforms. One may use Zoom, one might use Google Meet, one might use Teams, and each of them have a little bit of a different feature. So just to try to link, to practice, there's tips and tricks and guides out there on each type of technology. So that is always best too. And yes, just be yourself. Try to use your energy like you would in a personal interview. And as you can see on my screen, on Tanya's screen, we kind of have a blurred out background too. I know you can't always do that, but try to minimize the distraction behind you. The employer wants to focus on you also, and not to be distracted. So maybe more of a simplistic wall in the background is always good too. We all know that there could be children in the background. There could be animals, dogs. There could be, sirens in the background too. Just know that those things are sometimes things you cannot control, and to not get nervous about it. Everybody's going through this and are going to be as flexible as possible.
Well, on that note, what are some of the challenges that maybe people have encountered, as they're doing virtual interviews versus in person?
I think the one thing is the technology not working right, or they may not have a computer that it's more compatible on, so then they have to use their phone. And knowing that you can't see everything on your phone, it might be that their face is really close to the phone, but as the interviewer or the interviewee can't really see that on the other end. So it's just knowing that you may not have the perfect interview from some of those technology barriers, but that, we just have to be flexible to be able to accommodate on whatever resources they have available for technology.
And when things happen, just roll with it, right? Don't get too anxious or upset. It's still kind of new. A lot of people are getting more experience with it. But the first time you do it, it can be a little bit, I'll say, uncomfortable. And just be okay with that. It's okay. As Amanda said, people are flexible. We're all adjusting, and it's really just a way to connect with people safely. Right. So
Last question. I wanted to take a moment. You guys both mentioned that personal connection, right? And how important that is. How do you as employers ensure that you're still fostering and still obtaining that personal connection when everyone's sitting at home, behind a computer?
Well, at Presbyterian Senior Care Network, we do a lot of the virtual interviewing. I don't want to say exclusively, but pretty much. There may be some exceptions here and there. So often the first time we meet the candidate, we're not a virtual work environment. So people come to work. So often, people are meeting for the first time when they come to orientation, the person that they've interviewed with or the manager that's hiring with them. So, we're just really trying to make that onboarding experience very comfortable, connecting with them as they arrive, making sure they feel comfortable and safe. We're in a healthcare setting, so we have protocols that we need to follow, and we want to make sure people are comfortable being in our buildings and then practice that safety and those safety protocols when they're out and about doing their work. So, I think really just trying to make that onboarding or that first day and their subsequent days in their department, make it very comfortable for them, because they're coming into a new environment. Sometimes it's the first time they've been where they're working, right? I actually hired a person in May of 2020 to work at one of our other communities. I didn't meet him in person until just this past August. We had a connection though, and you can maintain those connections and relationships via phone and Zoom and whatnot, but it will transition nicely. And I think all of us employers that are working with people at work are really trying to reinforce those connections.
We do we're in more of a hybrid type model. So there are positions at UPMC where you are patient facing. So you have to be in the hospital, but you may have done everything virtually up until that point. So our job is to set the expectations to know what your first day looks like. So it calms your nerves and you know what to expect. You have a good experience. And we try to make sure that, yes, our interviewing and onboarding experience is good for no matter if you are going on site or if you are virtual. For those who are still in that virtual environment, everything is done over our virtual platform. So we make sure that we're always consistent with our one-on-one meetings, team meetings, to make sure that everything is very well communicated to all. Whether it is via email or just set up a time to see everybody's faces on our team's platform. And then to have more of an engagement piece. Sometimes we'll use our team meetings to just not talk about work, and we will just have a good time and spend 30 minutes or an hour just to engage with each other, be relaxed and talk about, personal things and what they're doing this weekend to make sure that engagement and the connection is there, because we do have new employees who have started that may have not even met other team members before. And that's the only way right now they can get to know them. So we make sure to take some personal time and really get to know each other too.
I like the layering, because I think it's been an adjustment for everyone. To kind of do this virtual thing. But I think it's super important. And Amanda, you brought up an excellent point that it doesn't necessarily have to be all business all the time, and that it's important to kind of take those small, social breaks and really engage. Because to your point, like we are all working, we are all still part of a team, regardless of where we are physically. So thank you. Super, super helpful, super informative. I would like to conclude and take the time to thank both Tanya and Amanda and Charles as well Charles for helping me out, and Tanya and Amanda for excellent contributions, great conversation. There's going to be resources to follow. We will have a corresponding one-pager that will be digitally as well as a hard copy that will be available at a number of local sites. So more to come, and thank you guys. And honestly, super happy that we have the opportunity to kind of use our platforms to help and invest in and support our local residents and neighbors in Allegheny County and the city of Pittsburgh. So once again, guys, thanks again, and I will see you guys very soon.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Special thanks to the following organizations for their contributions to the webinar: There will be a one-pager including tips for all ages relating to the content that you have seen and heard during this webinar series. Please feel free to reach out to any of these organizations for more information.